All right, welcome back, everybody, to DangIT Prodcast, the show where we talk about video games, anime. I'm gonna be honest going forward. Maybe not as much manga, depending on who's here. But my name is Justin, and welcome back, everybody. It's a very weird past couple of weeks as far as schedules involved. I was talking to the other cast about appearances and whatnot last week. If it was not available, Mark had something to do, and I has been not really communicating. So I've just been letting him do his own thing. And this week it's kind of the same thing, except for the fact that Mark has not said a thing to me. So it's like one of those things where I think going forward, we should probably have people just let me know in advance. Just so I'm not trying to pester everybody throughout the Discord call, and just ultimately leads to nothing. So I think going forward, we're gonna just be doing that behind the scenes. Otherwise, this is a solo run again this time around. But to my surprise, I was admittedly thinking that this podcast episode wouldn't really have much about anything, to be honest. I knew that there was a couple games coming out this past week, and then I actually did a little bit of quick research about all the different topics as far as different games released, and it's almost as if it was almost every day there was something coming out. It was kind of insane. So yeah, so perhaps there's a lot of games out there, and maybe there's just too many games. Maybe just maybe. To kind of give you guys a quick outline on everything, I have a couple of bullet points here that are otherwise just things to cover, but we have releases such as Metal Gear Solid Delta, Snake Eater. We have Story of Seasons, Grand Bazaar. We have Kirby and the Forgotten Land, Nintendo Switch 2 edition. This game didn't come out, but it is having a network test happening this weekend as well of Sonic Racing CrossWorlds, as well as the release here of Lost Soul side, and there was actually an announcement on Honkai side. That's Hoyoverse, I should say. Hoyoverse. And, if we don't really have a lot of things to talk about with those given bullet points, I actually have some questions I would like to pose to everybody. Considering the fact that everyone, if you look at this entire library of or lineup of games this past week, it's kind of something for everyone. If not, well, yeah, actually something for everyone. I was assuming that some folks would love to try this out. Phil's one of those folks who tries out all the games here just to get a feel for it. He obviously has some favorites, but otherwise he's down to try out everything. And I'm kind of the same, if not a little bit more these days interested towards RPGs. But I am looking at Stories of Seasons, and I was kind of intrigued by that. But yeah, let me go ahead. I'll go ahead and start adding some timestamps over here. But let's talk about Metal Gear Solid Delta. This game actually had gone raving reviews last week. We talked about that just kind of briefly, and now the game's officially out. There's been nothing but clips just showing up on TikTok, for example, of just different moments in the games here and there. Feels less of the gameplay per se, and more over these overly dramatic cutscenes, I like to say. And it's almost exactly how it was back then, from what I understand, as far as just general presentation, the voice acting, the delivery, the lines. It just looks a lot cleaner. But it is so interesting to have games like that one, well, I'll just say Kojima games, just to make it very simplistic, where it strives to achieve something a little bit different in the playing experience, not just make it a straightforward action game type of thing. There is, but there's also a lot of interesting nuances and little Easter eggs slash some funny quirks, I would say, regarding the Metal Gear Solid series, but also anything that Kojima's touched. There's always something very different about them. So having said that, though, that is a game that I would definitely like to just get my hands on at some point, but I definitely will probably just kind of wait this one out for a little bit. If there's a possible physical I can get my hands on, that'd be great. I actually don't know if everything's gonna be on disc as far as Xbox or PlayStation. I'll have to just wait and see. But otherwise, yeah, no, this one. Otherwise, if you're a big fan of Metal Gear Solid, this is not something you want to skip for sure. Now, granted, if you really are a really big fan, then you probably have already gotten your hands on Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater, and played it at some point. I mean, hell, I've thought about the 3DS version that they've had like a while back, and I, I mean, hmm, I've definitely entertained the idea of it, but I don't know if I really wanted that type of experience. Felt like it could be a little bit more compromising, considering it's just like the 3DS, and sometimes like games don't really translate too well with that. I think one of the games that like really got me thinking about that was Hyrule Warriors, because that was originally on the Wii U, I think. Yeah, the Wii U, and then eventually get support on the 3DS, and then later on like an actual like Switch port. To which that's probably the better recommendation for a lot of people. But I mean, hey, listen, if you are limited on like whatever platforms you got, then you're gonna just like make do what you got. But yeah, no. Otherwise, Metal Gear Solid Delta, I'm glad that even though there's been reports on just compromising like performances, it's otherwise received very well. So the next thing I want to talk about is this release here, Story of the Seasons Grand Bazaar. I do understand a little bit of like the story that from what Phil's told me and what I've kind of been like looking up like on the side as far as like the history of it. It is Harvest Moon, right? If you guys don't know, like Harvest Moon like was kind of, if I could just like put these two like to like just to synthetically like butt heads against each other just for the sake of me making this comparison, but it was like Animal Crossing versus like Harvest Moon. Animal Crossing is more like on Nintendo, and Harvest Moon's a little bit kind of its own thing. But essentially, it was like another life sim type of situation. But kind of focusing more on Harvest Moon. If I recall correctly, I think the rights were like transferred over. There was something about like whoever had the rights to Harvest Moon, and they would just make their own thing. And then later on, I think someone would then like from that same team would eventually make like Story Seasons. I guess the original creator and whatnot. So Story Seasons now is the successor to Harvest Moon, while like whatever company owns Harvest Moon now will just kind of do whatever they want. That's the completely butchered version of the story between like Harvest Moon versus Story Seasons. Feel free to let me know and correct me in the comments in the chat, because I am not too well versed in that little bit of history. But to say that and then like put that aside, Story Seasons Grand Bazaar is a game that originally released, I believe, on the 3DS, if not the regular DS. And it was received pretty well, and it has now a brand new, clean look to it on the Nintendo Switch and the Nintendo Switch too. What's very important for me personally, and for Phil and some other like for folks who are really big on physical releases, Story Seasons Grand Bazaar is actually going to be completely on the cart for Nintendo Switch 2. Nintendo Switch 1, you're good. But if you want like a much more like cleaner, high fidelity experience with Harvest Moon that's all on like that cart instead of like a key card situation, and I can briefly explain like the differences there, then this is one of those few that actually is able to support it year one. The thing with the game key card situation, just to kind of summarize it, is the fact that it is a hybrid approach to letting people have like a physical like game cartridge that is essentially you're redeeming or well allows you to redeem any of the games that are like listed on it, that being one, on the eShop without what I understand is without requiring any other bit of verification. As long as you have that like physical card there, then you can download the game. But as a key card, you need to actually have it slotted into your Switch in order to play it, even though you download that digitally. So it is a compromised type of, platform and like way of delivery for customers. And you probably wanted to know like, well, what is that it? And I had to kind of clarify too that, it's different from like a code in the box, right? Where, that code is, well, I mean, on surface level, it doesn't seem too different. And by the end of the day, when, the eventual servers and the online eShop like closes, then it's just going to be like a wasted piece of plastic, to be honest. that can't run anything or redeem anything, unless Nintendo like keeps that alive. But that's always a pending type of situation. But what's important at the end of the day here is that when you have like the physical game in the cart, like you can essentially be able to boot that up at any given moment, so long as you have the supportive hardware for it, which is a nice thing for game preservation, whereas game key cards kind of aren't still at the end of the day. I know that I talked about like the whole survey and everything. I just hope that that kind of like gets turned around and Nintendo Switch or Nintendo really offers more options as far as like flexibility in like the price of like, you know, getting a cartridge out to like the distributors and allowing them to actually put all their games in a cart and not just be limited to like a 64 gig, the highest, like the most expensive little bit, versus like putting it as a game key card. But otherwise, if you guys don't really care about that, that's fine too. I'll circle back to this, by the way, when we jump into the next thing. But for now, let me go ahead mark down another thing right here. The next topic I got going on here is Kirby and the Forgotten Land, Nintendo Switch 2 Edition plus Star-Crossed World. This game came out on the 28th, and you know, I don't think I saw really any reviews per se. There wasn't any like reviews that literally would just tell me upfront like a score or anything like that. I'd have to really dig deep into people's impressions for that one. And if you guys have been like really curious about that, then you should definitely go seek that out. I am unfortunately in like my circumstances with Kirby and the Forgotten Land, Nintendo Switch 2 Edition plus etc. etc. Is that I'm on a budget, so I actually had to withhold from like buying this game, even though I did a pre-order for it like a while back. So unfortunately, I'm just gonna not really participate that until there's a nice clean spot like within like one of these months where I'm not focusing on one of these games. So it is what it is. It helps me out for next month, September, but it's unfortunate that like this is one of those games I'm just kind of having to skip out on. Now, that's just a personal thing. I think everyone has to tackle game budgeting and just overall like finances like in their own sort of way. So I definitely encourage everybody to do that. But otherwise, yeah, for me personally, I can't really like say much about like the experience with Kirby and the Forgotten Land now with the new like additions with Nintendo Switch 2 in mind. But I will say, just from face value, I like the idea of like having 60 frames, like a very smooth like frame rate, especially considering that I just had a recent experience with like lesser frame rates on a game that we will be talking about next. Let me go ahead and talk about that one real quick. I also like put a time code of it. I'm talking about Sonic Racing CrossWorlds, game that's not coming out yet. Let me be clear. This game is not coming out yet, but for this weekend actually, on pretty much every platform it's like you can imagine, except for Nintendo Switch 2. We'll talk about that. They're having a network test. Is that, yeah, the network test live is what they call it. That's available on seemingly all platforms: PC, Xbox, PlayStation, and Nintendo Switch. And from what I understand, and what I've played a little bit because I did, it is starting off with just kind of giving you a sense of like the controls, playing a little bit of Grand Prix. I played like the very first one. I think there's like two other ones that were available. And then once you play one Grand Prix of it, you're open to online mode, which I didn't have time for. So I'll let you know right now. But I played it on the Nintendo Switch, and let me just tell you right now, for Sonic Racing, it's okay. It's okay. You're gonna look at that and be like, "Oh wow, okay. Oh geez, that's what it look. Oh, you know, it's fine. Everything's moving." So if you guys are very used to like, I guess, cleaner looking like textures and whatnot, you're not gonna really see that on like Nintendo Switch, nor are you going to see like higher performances here and there. Like I couldn't even tell you if it stayed like a consistent 30 frames, but it was like lesser than 60. That's all I can really tell you with an untrained eye like mine. But otherwise, it was pretty good as far as like how everything was like presented to itself. I would say that I played with like camera settings as normal, so it felt a little bit slower. But then I recalled that there was a different camera setting called dynamic that you would like check off, and it kind of gives you kind of a more of a similar vibe as Mario Kart as far as like that sense of like speed. It's still the same speed, but it makes a difference. I think camera speed or camera type normal is, or I guess, yeah, let's say normal is an easy way for you to get a scope of everything. When you go into the Grand Prix, there are these red rings. If anyone like knows what they are, it's a bad case status on Xbox's side when it comes to the three. No, I'm not talking about that one, but you collect 5 of these like red rings over the course of like each of these stages, and they serve to, I think, as far as just, I think they're just kind of for completionist sakes. If not, they might yield like some extra rewards here and there for you to redeem via like their in-game shop. But you'll go through those and you'll collect 5 of them. Since you have like 3 laps to go through, you have 3 attempts to like collect all the coins, and I remember that took a lot of my attention immediately. I would I would not even focus on all the racers. I would just like kind of focus in on like where are the red rings going to show up from. And if I miss them, it's like, oh shoot, well, now I know I got to pay attention next time. And so I've been doing that. And I think normal camera settings just kind of helped out with that a lot. So I played through like one whole Grand Prix with that normal like option and setting, which made the experience feel a little bit slow, kind of, in comparison to like say like Mario Kart to some extent, because that's also 150cc can also feel slow sometimes, especially on a straightaway. But yeah, I think dynamic changes that like quite a bit. But otherwise, I didn't really have any issues with I guess item stuff. I think there was a little bit of customization here and there. There was more of a priority towards, you know, I think, I mean, every single racing game kind of has like that same like focus on like making sure that you like cut your corners just right, make sure you don't hit the walls, make sure that you, if you can, and they have that ability in the game to be able to tailgate somebody and essentially like take advantage of like, I forget what exactly the terminology for, but let's just say slipstream like past that. I think that's more of a Kirby Air Riders type of thing slash Sonic Riders. But that's a mechanic that some racing games really take advantage of, where you just fall closely behind and just take advantage of like the speed you get from that. I don't really have much else to really add. I would need to try out like the online stuff just to see. To be fair, I haven't even played like online mode for Mario Kart World. I'm kind of scared to do so. The meta for that one's kind of extreme. So, I mean, we'll see. Otherwise, Nintendo Switch runs pretty fine. I don't think there will be a Nintendo Switch 2 version for the network test, so that it is what it is. But it's otherwise pretty solid. I think it's pretty ambitious. Oh, another thing, music. It's not bad. Unfortunately, like when I was playing through it, there was not many that I could actually remember, but they were pretty good. I think they're just like nice vibes to like play in the background as you're racing around. I find that I can totally accept like either or, where music in games can just be just a vibe instead of like an iconic thing, which I think can be a separate like category for some of these. But yeah, I think otherwise, I think I've been saying I think a lot, and I gotta refrain from doing that. But Sonic Racing CrossWorlds looking pretty strong so far. I'm not sure if I'm gonna really get into it, but I will. I will get the Nintendo Switch 2 physical because, dude, they're also gonna do the same thing. If you check their website and check their Q&A, one of the questions is, what's the situation with the Nintendo Switch 2 physical cartridge? And they say it's gonna be a full game in the cart, a 64 gig cart available at launch. But the thing is that the game is coming out on the 25th next month, September. But the actual physical release of that one is going to show up early 2026. So there's much more of it's a little bit more incentivizing for those who are really into like playing it right now to, just get it digitally. You can actually do the pre-order, and most demos do this, and online like network tests and whatnot, but you pretty much will play through like the Grand Prix of Sonic Racing, and once you clear through that, they'll give you like a direct link to the eShop to do the pre-order if you want to do that. I am definitely wanting to go in and just like do a physical pre-order for Switch 2 because I think that's a little bit more worth that. Rather, I would like to just support that more so. But it is looking pretty good though. I see Nike Jordan saying hello over on the Twitch chat. I had to be careful. I was like, or rather, I don't need to be careful about it. I am so used to when I'm doing like multi-streams. I typically try to not say like Twitch or YouTube for like TikTok's appeasement, but TikTok is not the audience here, so we're good. We're good this time around. Okay, let me go in and prepare the next thing. I had all these different notes here. It's a good thing I didn't have to reference them, but I had them listed here for my little list of topics. But yeah, TLDR, Sonic Team Racing, CrossWorlds, online like network tests, not bad, not bad. It's a little bit of compromise on Nintendo Switch, but that's the growing pains of like trying to like get better like games to perform better. Is that unfortunately, yeah, Switch specs are not gonna like hold it up too well. You're gonna have to rely on some indie games to like be able to do that, and even then, like some of that could be even demanding for the Switch. So we'll see. Hold on, guys. I'm just trying to get like the time code right here. Oh boy, this is gonna be like the shortest one, the shortest topic that I have to talk about. We're talking about Lost Soul Aside. You remember that game from what felt like a whole decade ago getting announced? It was gonna be made by one dude. One dude's making this game. So I'll give them the grace on that one. But they finally released this past week, and I'm gonna be real honest, I haven't even seen a lot of reviews on this one. It's weird. You ever like type in a game on Google search, and it'll just give you all the like reviews and everything like that? And maybe that's like this is the case for like newer games that just kind of came out over the past week, but I feel like I haven't even seen a lot of that. But you know what? Hold on. I am getting. Actually, I'm just gonna do a quick Google search of it like myself here. How about if I just put in reviews on top of that? Okay, they're not really giving me everything I could see like at face value. I wonder. I don't want to use AI mode for Google, but I'm kind of curious as to what it actually like brings up. Actually, you know what? I don't want to really support that per se because sometimes they like get that wrong either. For what I understand, there's quite a bit of mixed reviews for Lost Soul Aside, which that's fair. I mean, from what we saw, I think the combat was like the most like fleshed out type of thing. If there was any other like things meshed into the game as far as story narratives, anything that happens outside of combat would be an interesting thing to really like digest and really take in consideration. But I think what's been going on is there's been some issues as far as I think cutscenes are involved. I don't know. I would have to really like look further into this. I just know that it's a game that came out and it's gotten like some like mixed reviews. That's all I got. If we're going to go based off of Steam, I mean that's kind of rough. Lost Soul aside, like, as far as Steam is, you can get some really what's the word? You're gonna see mixed reviews, but a lot of those negative ones are for like very personal reasons, and I kind of don't like that either. I'd rather there be an actual like critique, formal critique of the game. But if it's something where it's like, oh, I don't know, some like customer service type of thing where it's like, oh, I can't get it refunded because of this and that and this and that. That's not the reason. Or it's like the voice acting is so bad I had to like give it like a 3 or something like. Nah, like there's some really weird like negative reviews, and everyone has like the right to have their opinion, right? But I also want people to like think like critically about certain things, even if it means to kind of betray like your original stance on things. Which actually, you know what? did we talk about this? And that's kind of all I wanted to say about Lost Soul Side. But let me bring something else up that was actually something that got mentioned a while back. And kind of has something to do with what we were just talking about. It came out earlier, or was announced earlier than the release of Lost Soul Side. So forgive me on that one. But it's about Mega Hawlucha. If you guys are really big on Pokemon as I am, Pokemon Legends ZA has been kind of trickling down a lot of advertisement and promotion for the game. The game's coming out later October, which is kind of a newish thing for Pokemon, but yeah, it's October. So they've been releasing a couple things here. I think last week was Mega Victory Bell, and now this week they are announcing Mega Lucha. Well, they did, and kind of talking about like Lost Soul Side and the critiques there. I'd rather have people be like fair as far as like their reviews and takes on things versus them just kind of sticking their ground towards something that was like their initial take on it. I think when I think about Mega Halucha, I was kind of the same way too, where I looked at that and I was like, this doesn't really look like anything new. Like, yeah, like I get Halucha, he's a luchador. The main like thing that changes them, differentiates them, is the fact that they put like different garbs on. And that's what Halucha like is all about. You even see that like in the anime too, like when Ash is doing like Elite, not Elite Four, Pokemon League stuff, and Halucha had like a moment to change outfits and everything like that, and it was totally okay. And then here we are with the Mega Evolution for Halucha, and it for the most part focuses more on just kind of the gold and like the gold and black like attire it's got going on with some minor details like added to it, but I looked at it and I was like, oh, okay, that's pretty cool. I don't think I see a lot of like crazy differences between like it in its original form. And when I kind of stuck to that for a little bit and I really started to look and do comparisons, like, well, to be fair, like if I were to compare Venusaur to itself, Venusaur and Mega Venusaur, like yeah, there's a definite change to like, the flower, but otherwise it is kind of the same look. If you look at Charizard Y, then that's also the same. Blastoise also has something like distinctly different, but it's otherwise kind of similar designs on it too. So I had to really look at that and be like, yeah, you know what? My bad. My bad. I judged Mega Lucha like a little too like preemptively. I think it's actually a pretty solid design, especially when you just think about like the costume wardrobe, but it also has like different physical like changes to it. Like there's just like additional like feathers here and there's a little bit more like over here as well. It's hard to really describe that, but it's otherwise really good. Yeah, it's a really solid one. In fact, I'm thinking that I would like to actually run like a Halucha in Legends ZA. In fact, I kind of want my entire like team roster to just to be different, just in general, than I would normally run it. Because what ends up happening is that I don't use Halucha because usually at the start of every game there's always like a flying Pokemon option, and that kind of gets in the way if I want to keep everyone like distinctly different within the party. So like when we think about I mean you can run like Ash in like in the Kalos region and just have like three different flying types on your team. Fair enough. But I think what happened in the Kalos region, which is where Halucha like originated from, like as far as Gen 6, it was I was running Chestnut. Chestnut's a grass fighting type. And I had Talonflame, which is a fire flying type. So Halucha had no business being on my team as far as like me keeping things like different. I think I think Hatrin was there. Was Hatrin? Yeah, Hatrin was there. Or no, Hatrin was actually Gen 7 or 8. Yeah, something like that. But I remember that Tyrantrum, Tyrantrum was really cool. As a rock dragon type, it's like, whoa, that's okay, okay. Oh yeah, and then well, I guess that was kind of tough because I probably had like Charizard. Yeah, it was interesting with Gen 6 because they gave you like a Gen 1 starter, which I was appreciative of, but it was one of those weird things where like one slot was taken up, so you couldn't use like a whole brand new team. I'm trying to remember what else was like on my like roster. But I mean, I guess Evil Tall's interesting too because that's dark flying. So I guess I was also Ash. I think there was just way too many flying types I added to my team. Maybe Hawlucha was there too because Hawlucha's flying press is like super cool. It's like it's sorry. It's slated as a fighting type, but it also has flying like attributes applied to it. So if you're doing this against a grass type, then it is super effective anyway. Hawlucha's cool. So yeah, I think I will be adding Hawlucha like into the roster now. Hawlucha was like really interesting because if you look at the stat spread, it's okay with the attack. It's more over like a fast like fighting type slash flying type. So all right. Didn't have any other like evolution, so I think the Mega Evolution was it's definitely giving it a lot of service. But yeah, guys, let me go ahead. That was all I really want to say about Mega Lucha. So what TLDR, it's okay to have like an initial impression on something and be like kind of icked about it. You can look at something and just have like a predetermined like conception of like what you feel is off about it, but then be able to look back on it after having some bit of exposure or just thinking about it a little bit more and come up with a different conclusion for yourself that completely just derails itself from like your initial like perception, and that's okay. I'd rather people just have like their opinion. Well, first of all, it'd be nice if they were open-minded about that, right? But even then, like if there's something that pops up and it's one of those things where they didn't really think too much about it, but if they're able to just look inward and be able to just kind of like mold that into something that's a little bit more positive and be a little bit more open-minded after the fact, then I think that's also for the best as well. Speaking of which, I'm not trying to like daisy chain off of every single thing that we got going on here, but there's another game to talk about. This isn't any game that got released, or at least rather this week. This is something new that I wanted to bring up. I actually have like the website like loaded up here too. It's from Hoyoverse, guys. So I'm just gonna give you guys the disclaimer right there. I had gotten into like some of the Hoyo games, starting with Honkai Impact the Third. It's so insane because this game like was around, at least rather I started playing this game like during the early years of me working full time at the place I currently work at right now. It's kind of insane how it's been tracking like that. But that was my first foray into like what was Hoyoverse's like idea, and they're kind of like, one could argue like them leading the I what's the word? Leading the charge in what mobile games could possibly be. Because for mobile games, it was really just a lot of like, cut rope, or Angry Birds, stuff like that. Nothing wrong with those, by the way, or Candy Crush. Again, nothing wrong, but to have like almost like a full fledged like AAA experience like on like mobile was something like that was really shocking to me. So that's why I kind of stuck with like Honkai like Impact the Third for a little bit, and then I just kind of like fell off of that because I don't think I really like got too attached to the action based stage selection type of like dynamic. It was cool. Like I think I saw like there being like a push beyond the boundaries of what like traditional mobile games were like. And then they set off to essentially try to completely like open up the barricades to what would then feel like a AAA experience with the introduction of Genshin Impact, which funny enough was going to be like slated for Switch as well, like among all the different platforms, but never did. So Hoyoverse, if you could, the Switch 2 is strong enough now. I'm just putting that out there. But no, the reason I'm bringing it up here is that we have their new project that they're working on. The Pokemon like, I will have to say. It's called Honkai Nexus Anima. We had a little bit of talks about that. I think it initially showed itself around the Game Awards. Yeah? Something like that. But you kind of got a gist of like what it pretty much was. It was going to be like almost like a Pokemon like turn-based like RPG type of experience. And the way they showed it off, it showed like Honkai Impacts the Third's like one of the original characters, Kiana, as she turns around with her like her buddy to see Slade, or not Slade, sorry, Slade Who was Slade? Sorry. Blade from Honkai Star Rail. And it was like, what the hell's going on? But we got the reason I bring it up is that we got glimpses of like brand new gameplay this time around. It pretty much how the best describe it, it's kind of what feels kind of like a mesh between Genshin and Star Rail in a way. The UI is very, very familiar if you played either one. Um, the slow pace of it feels a little bit more like I think Star Rail in this case. And I think the plethora of like mini games that they showed off, it kind of feels like Zenless. For me personally, I feel like Zenless is kind of like doing a little bit more like fun little side off mini games than I would say even like Star Rail so far. For me, I'm a little bit more invested into Zenless, so I apologize if everyone's offended by that. I can't say much about Genshin though. I have not touched that game in a while. But it's interesting that I'm looking at the gameplay and there's some exploration. There's light like traversal here in the form of like you gliding like down from like some higher like buildings like with your like anima, I guess. And there's like mechanics like skipping forward in time by waiting on a bench. You're walking like across like the town, different settings, maybe the beach here and there. Funny enough, I don't really see there being a huge plethora of like different animas like floating around. There are, but in comparison to you just having a constant companion just like following behind you, it feels a little like right now a little lackluster. Whenever Pokemon like has their movies, for example, and they'll say, "Welcome to the world of Pokemon," and they'll just kind of talk about like it's a world that's filled with people, Pokemon coexisting, and like it's all B-roll of like a almost equal ratio of like humans to Pokemon like on screen in like droves. But then when you compare like it to, well, this is early like gameplay development stuff, yada yada yada. So don't take it at face value. But it's kind of funny when you look at it without really thinking too much about it and you realize like, oh wait, where are the other animals here? Where did the Oh, I see one and see another one. But yeah, that was just kind of like a funny thing I noticed. But the other thing I wanted to talk about as far as Honkai Nexus Anima was the fact that one, they have their website open up so you can actually like deep dive into the characters and whatnot. But the important thing for actual people, for us, is the fact that they actually have this network test, this closed beta test, if you will. I'm here on the actual website. It's all pretty. They have like all the different animations here and there, introducing like your animals, the characters who will be, paired up with these said animals. It's interesting. I'll get into the network test in a little bit, but I wanted to shout out that they have like different classes for some of these like folks, and I have no idea how they're gonna play things out. They talk about there being an old world. They have like these sovereigns. They have like Novarch. They have like others. It's like, wait, what's the classification for all these characters? I can read them right now. I think they do the best is just to kind of give you a summary, but I think you'll see a little bit more of it as you play through the game. But the sovereigns are these. This is according to the website. They're the owners of the aspects of the old world, rulers of the mortal world, wielding power and authority. It's pretty vague. I don't know exactly what we can make of it, but they have a couple of these like sovereign characters. They look crazy. Some of them look way too like designed, like almost overly designed in a good way. But also when you look at it compared to like some of the other characters, you're like, what the hell is going on? Apparently there's a lot of sovereigns. Like I see up to like a 28th sovereign, so I was like, okay, all right. Um and I think there's a little bit of overlap too. So they showed the same character for sovereigns and Novarch. So I think yeah, the 57th Novarch versus the 28th are the same person. The second Novarch versus the first Sovereign are the same character. But there are a couple of different Novarches that you'll see, including Blade. who is a 20 is the 22nd Novarch. I don't know what's going on with Blade's character. Because as far as I understand, like Blade, according to like Star Rail, is like this Stellaron hunter, like one of the most dangerous like folks like that exists in the cosmos. And here he is the second Novarch and the master of the plane, known as the Peak. One of the Phoenix Breaker Novarch. He's searching for the missing 11th sovereign. I don't. Okay. Listen, guys, if you guys are like tuning into this and you're like, what the hell is he talking about? I wish I could tell you. I wish I could tell you. All I know is that I think the cover for like the app itself when you like log in is going to be like the this representative character was it Nanafe. There's not really much about her except for the fact that she's just a student that lets you the character stay at like her place while I guess you're homeless. So thanks for treating us well. I don't know. I think there's a little bit more characters, or at least a little bit more personality when you look at like the other category. Others don't really seem to have any higher purpose other than just, doing their best in their own individual way. There's only like, was it four of them? Kiana is like one of them, so that's your representation over there as far as the whatchamacallit, Honkai Impact the Third. So all we need is a Zenless Zone Zero representative. And I would like to elect. Ooh. If I had to choose like someone from Zenless Zone Zero to have some type of like character appearance just for the sake of representation among like Hoyoverse in Honkai Nexus Anima, it would be. Oh, I actually don't know. um, I think Anime is a safe choice. I think her vibe can work in this world, but otherwise, maybe Juyen, yeah, maybe, or maybe Astra instead. Like they can do whatever. That's how I personally feel. But yeah, so about this network test, I actually don't know much about it. I'm gonna see if I can like maybe like hold on, because I'll sign up. I'll sign up for it. It's weird how like far I've come as far as this journey of like not touching free to plays anymore to completely embracing them to is a certain extent. So I will hold on, I have to actually like sign in and everything like that. That's the one thing. It takes a little bit to remember everything. So I have to actually like input everything here and see how this all plays out. Sorry guys, give me 1 second. I think that's a login, right? Please tell me that's right. Um, oh, there was an account error. Oh no! What are you talking about? Uh, yeah, 1 second, everybody. I will figure this out. Oh, I think I understand what I messed up on. Let me try that again. We're doing this in real time, everybody. We's about to find out. Okay, there we go. Um, okay, so they want to just like use my email. That's totally fine. Um, they want me to do a questionnaire of sorts. Let me get this prepped up and ready. Fill out a questionnaire, they say. Oh, you see it just like light up my entire face. Let's see. They're asking to collect follow personal data. So, email, your nickname, and an account ID, the IP address. Oh, uh-oh. Where were you born? What year? Okay, I'll do that. Select your gender. There's three options: male, female, or prefer not to say. They probably should have added a fourth one, to be honest. Which mobile device will you use to participate in this test? This is only supporting iOS mobile devices. Really? Well, I have the 16 series right now, so we good here. But otherwise, wow, they're only talking about like, you know, iPhone and not iPad or anything like that. Okay. Um, what is the CPU model of the PC that you use to participate in the test? Right click model. Oh, okay. Let me think. Yeah, I was gonna say, hold on. Actually, you know what? Let me just double check. So they want to know like one, like the iOS device, but they also want to know exactly your CPU device as well. I'm gonna need to probably look at device manager here. I don't have any options when I do right click on that one. Apologies on that one. So I will have to go into, yeah, there we go. And let's see, right clicks. Oh, click check processors here. Where is that? I'm trying not to like spend too much time on this. I promise you. Oh, you know what? I could probably do this. Oh, right. And then check processors. I'm trying to see where that oh, right there. Oh, I see. Uh, so the three options here, aside from none of the above, are the CPUs like the i7, the i5, i3, Ryzen 7 2000 series, Ryzen 5 3000, Ryzen 3 5000. And I'm trying to see which ones kind of like fit the category of mine. Mine's like a Ryzen 7 5000 processor, so I think it's kind of like fitting above with other things here, I think. So yeah, let's just go with that one. Sure. And then the graphics card. If I recall, mine's like a 40 something, a 4070. I could that one I could just double check right now. Yeah. Yeah. I'll check right now. Oh, you know what? I think it's about PC. Hold on. We're doing this in real time, everybody, just so you can go through that whole process itself. Install RAM. Let's see. They really should tell me. You know what? I'll take a guess because it's just been a while since I've even looked at that graphics card. Let's say it's oh, it's actually, yeah, anything that's like RTX 3060 or higher. Yeah. Let's go with that one. The RAM, I definitely have like 32, so it's like 16 or more. In the last 6 months, next question. How often have you played games in the following platforms? On mobile, I actually have played it at least 1 or 2 days per week, and that's actually just me playing through Honkai Star Rail. It's actually pretty streamlined as far as just that experience, just like going to different menus and whatnot with that one. On desktop, I'm gonna be honest, I don't really play a lot on my platform for desktop or laptop, but when it comes to console, it's like, yeah, that's about like 3 to 4 days per week. Which of the following genres of game have you played before? May select more than one. Include games that you are playing or have played. Select all that apply. So the sandbox being Roblox and Minecraft. I haven't been playing a lot of those shooters such as PUBG, Free Fire, COD Mobile, etc. That might actually appeal to some. I have not. MOBA, nope. That's Dota 2 and League of Legends, etc. Idle ones, which is AFK Arena, Cookie Run Kingdom, Top Heroes Idle, AFK Arena, etc. I don't know why they said that twice. Anyway, open world, Genshin Impact, Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom, GTA, etc. Oh, I guess GTA is open world in that case. So yeah, I'm gonna click on that one. Creature Collector, Pokemon series, Power World, etc. By the way, funny crazy thing. Since we're doing this little survey questionnaire for Honkai Nexus Anima, I think there was something about there possibly being a conflict as far as something that would be like infringement with Pokemon. So, you know, Power World definitely took a lot of heat for that one directly from like Pokemon. So I wish Hoyo the best of luck on that one. But Creature Collector, yes. TCG and deck building. I played through. I'm playing really Pokemon TCG Pocket passively, so I'll add that there. Strategy RPGs such as Honkai Star Rail, Raid Shadow Legends, etc. We didn't even put in Fire Emblem. Come on, man. But Honkai Star Rail's there, so fair enough. Puzzles slash casuals, which is Candy Crush Saga, Royal Match, etc. Not really. Management simulation. I've played a couple of those, but otherwise not as much. Action RPGs such as Devil May Cry, Zenless Zone Zero, etc. Definitely action RPGs. Auto chess, sports, MMORPGs, and other strategy stuff. So I'm gonna stick it to the five: open world, creature collector, TCG, strategy, action RPGs. Let's go. Of the following games, which have you played for more than a month? You may select more than one. Let's select all that apply. I'm gonna assume that. Oh, what the hell? Oh, this is weird. Okay, so I'm doing the questionnaire here, and they're asking for Honkai Nexus Anima, which games have you played for more than a month? And we have Whiteout Survival, Summoner's War, Cookie Run Kingdom, Raid Shadow Legends, Clash Royale, Fate Grand Order, Minecraft: Dream It Build It. I don't know what that is. Goddess of Victory Nikki, DC Dark Legion, Marvel Strike Force Squad RPG, Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, Clash of Clans, Dragon Ball Legends. Okay, that's fair. Okay. They're all mobile games, I would assume. Because I was looking at Dragon Ball for a second. I thought that meant, like, are you talking about Sparking Zero? Like, why would you ask about that one? No, we're okay. That is to say, I figured that they would try to, like, plug in, like, one of their Hoyoverse games, and I would have selected that, but I'll just have to pick none of the above. Or, oh, they have a whole other listing here. Pokemon Sleep. Yeah, I do. DCG Pocket, yes. Teamfight Tactics, nope. Candy Crush, nope. Hero Wars Alliance, nope. Coin Master, nope. Monopoly Go. I do remember that. That was heavily advertised for a while. Roblox, AFK Arena, Pokemon Go, kinda, but I guess not anymore. I'll just leave it to the top two Pokemon. Which of the following games have you played for more than 20 hours? You may select more than one for games in a series. Select it if you played it for any of the games for 20 hours or more. Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, I feel bad for not saying anything for that. Red Dead Redemption 2, I feel really bad about that one. GTA 5, I haven't played that for a while, but I did play for more than 20 hours when I was playing through it like years ago. Marvel Spider-Man 1 and 2. Well, yeah. Pokemon Legends Arceus. I see why they would put that one in there. Elden Ring, absolutely. Ghost of Tsushima, I feel bad about that one. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, yes. God of War 4 and 5, as in 2018 God of War and then Ragnarok, so yes. Pokemon Sword and Shield, yes. I guess I'll have to put Grand Theft Auto 5 because that's just the truth. So yes. And then they have other ones. Oh, they have Clear Obscure here as well. Disco Elysium, Stardew Valley, Divinity, Original Sin, Elder Scrolls 5 Skyrim. Yeah, that's true. I did play Last of Us 1, and of course I played Final Fantasy 7 Remake and Rebirth. Death Stranding, I didn't personally play it a lot. That's about it on that one. And of course, they finally have the last like Hoyoverse games here. Um the Honkai Star Rail, Zenless Zone, and then Genshin. Okay. Which of the following games have you played? Oh, actually, I probably should have went back on Honkai Impact. That made more sense. It's whatever. Which of the following is... This is a pretty long questionnaire, I'm not gonna lie. Which of the following is most important to you when experiencing a game? Select up to 5. Personalization. Being able to choose the design and appearance of characters and scenes in the game to your liking, like customizing face and appearances of character skins. Yeah, that's pretty important, but I guess I'll have to pick 5 of them. There's a lot of them. Relaxation. Simple and easy gameplay that helps you relax and relieve stress. I do kind of like that too. Collecting. collecting all the game content that can be collected, such as characters, skins, items, pets, etc. You got me there too. Freedom, high level of freedom, with many things to do, character growth, and many possibilities for advancing the story. Freedom, yeah, you're right. Strategy requires thought and planning to find more optimal gameplay. I love that too. Visuals, high quality, great, good looking graphics and visuals with unique aesthetics or art style. That's also very important. Exploration, exploring the unknown and finding hidden content, random events and whatnot. Ooh, exploration is very important. Social interactions, meeting new friends through the game, interacting with other players. Oh, that's tough. Because that's been kind of a new thing that I've been discovering with Honkai Star Rail, playing it like on stream and having other people like just jump in and just have their takes on things. That's been pretty nice, I'm not gonna lie. Competition, I don't really care for competition, I'm not gonna lie for you lie about that. Leaderboards, ladders, etc. But yeah, competing with other players, challenging or surpassing opponents. Emotional value, experience a real emotional connection and relationship through games like love, friendship, etc. That's tough. The challenge, I do like the challenge too. Difficult, challenging gameplay that requires research or practice to complete. The immersion aspect of it, the feeling of immersing yourself in the game world, and forgetting the real world. Immersion's pretty nice. I don't really need that per se. Gameplay that tests your mastery of controls, accuracy, reactions to timing. So mechanics and micro, that's what they're calling it. I don't know. Progression, continuously growing stronger, increasing. Oh, I think I like that more than collecting. I'm not gonna lie. Progression is kind of important to me in that aspect. Puzzle solving, I do like puzzle solving, but not too great. Story is kind of important, especially. Yeah, I do like stories. God, that's tough because it's story, and then there's characters, and that's very important too. Why are you doing this? That's so hard. Uh, but yeah, I think I'm sticking it to like freedom, strategy, visuals, exploration. Because I love that. Um, and progression. But so hard because story and characters are like very important to me too. I'm just gonna go with that. It's okay. How much have you spent on games per month on average over the last 6 months? This will include one-off game purchases or in-game transactions. Select one. Thankfully, this is easier for me because I only spend it on like, actual standalone games instead of trying to like get add-ons here and there. So I'm gonna have to say $51 to $100 USD. Which social media do you learn about new games, including viewing and searching? May select more than one. Select all that apply. YouTube, TikTok, Twitter/X. Yeah, I think that's it. There's Hawlucha here and there, but that's kind of like secondhand. Eh. What are the primary reasons that made you want to participate in this test? Select up to one. Gameplay. I am intrigued by, yeah, it's a new Hoyoverse game. Yeah, fair. Specific anima, the unique characters that you like, including their appearance and designs. That's also kind of there too. Um, and then I guess the small seaside town with humans and anima living together. That is cute, but I kind of wanted to see more. So I guess, yeah, based on what they're saying here, I think the gameplay is gonna be like kind of more chess-like instead of it being, a turn-based like Pokemon mechanics type of thing. I'll go with gameplay, world building, Hoyoverse game, and specific anima that you like. But I do like the characters themselves. So yeah, we'll just go with that. All right. Thank you for participating. You completed the questionnaire. And that's it. That's it. I guess that's it. Yeah, I guess we'll leave it at that. So we'll see how that plays out. If we get any notifications about that, I will let y'all know. And if we do get an opportunity to do this playtest, then you'll see it all over. But I'll give you my takes as well. But all right, I think that's pretty much everything. Yeah, honestly, what time is it? Oh, it's about to be an hour. Okay, not bad. That's not bad. I actually had like a couple of questions I wanted to leave out there, For those who may have stuck it on for too long or this long, we talked about a lot of video games, right? A lot of them, including like the whole thing with, you know, I guess Honkai Nexus Anima. But there was something else I wanted to kind of bring up. Considering the fact that we have all these different games, how do people kind of like go through this? So, a couple questions for anybody who is like tuning in right now or after the fact. Is that the first one? How are you feeling about like the games that have been releasing thus far, or just what we've been talking about? Or rather, maybe what games have you been like kind of focusing on instead? Because that's also a big thing too. I would say so far, I think what we're seeing is very promising this past week. It's just back to back like bangers. It just sucks that I find myself not really being able to like participate in a lot of them. Right now, I just cleared through Trails from Zero, the Legend of Heroes series, and that's been great. I have no qualms with like just going through that personally. I know that's not like exactly what people are playing right now, but I've been enjoying that experience. But I do really appreciate seeing like these games coming out here. I'll have to like somehow make some more time for that. My other question for everybody: are there too many games out there for you to play, and why is there? As in, why are there too many games? I think, unfortunately, one could say that as far as new games, there's always going to be a plethora to like always choose from. But that doesn't derail from the fact that like a lot of the old games that you're seeing are still really good. So, especially like as someone new to like the gaming sphere of everything, it does seem very overwhelming because it is. Not only is like gaming a lot like more normalized, but there's also just like more and more. It is a much more profitable. I guess one could argue it is a much more profitable like area than it used to be. Maybe. I mean, that's just me saying that. So not face value, okay? Even though like we're hearing some news about like cutoffs or people being let go, that's not great. But more games are still being made. It's still like a business. And it does sorry, I just totally blanked. It does come out with like some really interesting like experiences that people will cling on to. It's tough, but you'll have to really, I think, going forward, as more and more games just come out, you're going to have like a much larger library in the backlog to go for, which is why I think it's important to one, you know, have like an exact like budget when it comes to games, so you're not trying to overspend. And two, I feel like companies also should provide incentives to add more to an existing library under like a certain fee, which is why I think Game Pass, why I think Nintendo Switch Online, PlayStation has its own little thing to incorporate more and more games like for free. Because yeah, you can buy it like separately and it might be at a loss here and there, but for the customers like point of view, that does help a lot. Trying to help filter a lot of these games out you would otherwise have to spend a lot of money on just to have the experience. And then my last question for everybody: how do you juggle games given your own personal circumstances? I know that when I was much younger, one, there was less games to really worry about because I would essentially only have like one game or so to be able to like play through over the course of a year. That's kind of like how our family was like. My brother and I, we'd get at least one game each or something like that. It's maybe two, maybe three. And then at a certain point, when we got older, my brother moved out. I'm still here at home, and I got like part time, and then I got to like a full time job, and I've been able to like manage my money here and there and buy like a boatload of games like after the fact. But at a cost of that, I realized that I'm much more busy, like busier than I ever was or ever were back then. So it's just ever was. Sorry, grammatical stuff. But I'm much busier now, and it's kind of rough because I end up having like this huge backlog. Backlog exists. So I mean, I think Phil had like an idea of how you do it. I think my way of kind of confronting that is probably just to really consider like what games do I actually have like right now versus games that I really want to get. Consider like what games are going to be on sale versus ones that just won't be. I know Nintendo first party hardly ever put their stuff on sale, and when they do, it's like years later. Like almost a near like 5 years later, will you see like a really decent like sale for something at like from 60 to like $45, if that, you know? But then again, I think I've seen like Mario for like $30, so it's like, yeah, yeah. They exist for sure. Otherwise, I think for other people, just having a nice little like time slot just for like gaming on like a very particular game, then I think that's really good too. I have a problem where I also do like online content here and there. So unless I'm actually playing through a game, like stuff like this where I just simply talk about it doesn't really contribute to me clearing through my backlog. So it is what it is. I think to each their own. So you have to kind of figure out how you manage your time. It was a lot easier back then because I had far less worries and issues to go about. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Guys, it's been kind of a chill experience. I will say though, I am kind of like getting really exhausted after talking for so long. But we'll reconvene next week on the following Saturday, where we will talk about essentially what's going to be happening over the course of September. September is a whole new month of stuff. I remember there was rumors about like a Nintendo Direct at some point, so it's like, I mean, I might have misheard that, but we'll see. I think September just has another opportunity to show up like with a whole bunch of other stuff. We were talking about like Team Sonic Race, or not Team Sonic, Sonic Racing, CrossWorlds. I believe there's another game coming out there. Oh, Trail in the Sky first chapter is coming out this month as well, September. So I'm looking forward to that. That's gonna be one of those few games where I'm just gonna simply like just bite the bullet, get it like at full retail, because I would not want to miss the opportunity to like buy that and potentially get that at like a much higher price, because for some reason like Falcom games just go up in like pricing like that. It's crazy, and they're just hard to find like over time. But all right, guys, we'll go ahead and call it here, guys. Thank you guys so much for tuning in for this one. It's been episode 556 of DangIT Prodcast. My name is Justin. We'll see you guys in the next one. Hashtag bar, buddy. I'm getting a little exhausted here.